Now to matchup number 3. I say matchup, but we all know it's the inevitable bitch slap award. Team Gobo 4-1 going against Asian sensation Mr. Teddy Ballgame, who is 0-5. I'd like to say that he's been unfortunate with just really tough matchups, but he's just been really bad. So ESPN has it 118-83. I don't think it's going to be that close. They're saying 36 points. I'm going to tell you later what it's going to be, but I think they're being very generous with 36 points. Except, here's the kicker. Gobo has a lot of question marks on his team this week. We have P's, probable, over his whole lineup. And not only just over his whole lineup, over his 4 fantasy studs. Breeze, probable. Johnson, probable. MJD, probable. McCoy, probable. Probable, yeah, they're all 4 going to play, but probable means that something is wrong with all 4 of them. Don't expect the giant numbers that they can potentially do and usually do. Okay? Just warning you now, Hugo, it might not be as pretty as what you might think. But I just touched on Breeze. Breeze going against the Tampa Bay team. New Orleans and their whole offense, Breeze himself, have really looked out of sync this year. Will it turn around against Tampa Bay? Maybe. But I don't think at Tampa Bay against a team that's young but still playing very well at 3-1 is going to be giving up giant points. They're going to allow that run, still drop that 8 to try to thwart Breeze in that passing game. So actually, ESPN saying 14 for Breeze. I'm actually going to say around 12 for Breeze. I know 12 is really low, especially for caliber quarterback as Breeze is, but you heard me. Tom Brady, Teddy Ballgame's trade acquisition. He's going to be good for a keeper, I suppose. Brady going against the Baltimore defense, though, doesn't really wet my whistle too much. Doesn't really excite me. Brett Favre against Dallas doesn't really excite me. But if he plays, even with a tendonitis, you know how he likes to prove people wrong, and especially when he's hurt, he tends to throw even more just to try to prove that he's not hurt. And sometimes it turns out great, sometimes it turns out really bad. So I'm not really envious of your predicament there. Running backs, we all know Gabo's team, but you know Johnson's going against a good Jacksonville team. ESPN has him slated at 24. Again, ESPN slated him at 24 to try to get him up to their predictions for the full year. It's not going to happen. Give him about 14 points for Chris Johnson. He hasn't been as good as some of his numbers have. I've watched a lot of Chris Johnson games. I don't know why, but on the East Coast we're seeing a lot of Tennessee, and they're plugging him. But last week he wouldn't have got near the points that he had. He got, at the very end, he vultured 2 touchdowns. 1 interception got stopped at the half-yard line. He ran that in. Another one, a catch, got stopped at the 1-yard line. He ran that in. Very good for Chris Johnson, and it's good that he's going to get those carries, which he will. But he hasn't been really getting it on his own like he did last year. So I'm still saying about 14, 16 points for Chris Johnson this week. Maurice Jones-Drew going against the Tennessee defense on Monday night. He's got both of his big stud running backs going on Monday night, going against each other too. MJD, there's something wrong with MJD this year. We all know it. And against the Tennessee defense, I don't like it. I think ESPN is still going a little high at 11 points. I'm going to give MJD 7 points. I think he's going to get around 70 yards and get kept out of the end zone against Tennessee. LaShawn McCoy going against Atlanta. A lot of possibilities for points there. I'm still thinking around 14. Decent matchup, but it's not a great matchup for them. And with Call, they showed that they could pass. We'll see how it works out. He had a really good game last week against the 49ers. If he has a good first half, look for him to have a giant game. If he doesn't have a good first half, look at him to have a very, very highly mediocre game at about 12, maybe 10 points. Asian sensation, Thomas Jones against Houston. Thomas Jones still is not the running back there. He's not the starter. Ryan Terrain against Indianapolis. The only thing is, I think he's going to actually hawk some touchdowns in this one against an Indy defense. They did really good, though, against Kansas City's run attack. So we'll see how it is. Ryan Terrain is not Thomas Jones, and he's not, what's his name? Come on. Someone tell me. Oh, you guys are no help. It's Jamal Charles. Jamal Charles. He's no Jamal Charles either. So Terrain, I don't think he's going to get 9 points. If he does get a touchdown, he'll get a touchdown, and that will put him up to 9 points, only about 30 yards rushing. Ronnie Brown against Green Bay. Green Bay, they're top 5, top 10 defense. It's going to be really hard for him to get a lot of points there. Ronnie Brown, give me 10 for Ronnie Brown. Not too high, not too low. Receivers, Steve Smith against Detroit. Love Steve Smith against Detroit. The only problem is he's not getting the looks in the end zone. It's all Hakeem Nicks, but I think this week it's going to be Steve Smith's show. Actually, give me 26 points for Steve Smith. 26 points for Steve Smith. Well above the average. Mike Sims-Walker has had a rather pedestrian year so far. I actually see him getting about 8 points this week. Not bad, not that great. On the other side, Roddy White against Philadelphia. Roddy gets the most targets in the league, but he doesn't get too much of the points. But I still think he's going to have a pretty good week this week. Give me 15. He'll find the end zone at least once. Mike Wallace for Pittsburgh. Hallelujah, Mike Wallace for Pittsburgh. You know who he's getting back. He's getting Roethlisberger back. Look for a lot of points out of Mike Wallace, as Roethlisberger is going to show that he's back. And I'm going to actually say 15 points for Mike Wallace this week. Antonio Gates against the St. Louis defense. Unfortunately, 20 more points for Antonio Gates. The man is a beast. He's averaging 17.4 points a game. Now everybody who passed up on Antonio Gates is killing themselves. Receivers put up a lot of the same numbers, but to be able to find a tight end that puts up those giant of numbers is absolutely ridiculous. 17.4, and until VJ comes back week 8, or I think week 9, because he has to come back because of the holdout, so he doesn't lose the year of eligibility, blah, 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 blah. Until that happens, he's going to still keep putting up these numbers. We'll keep going through the fantasy playoff stuff. I don't know. We'll see. I know Gobo will want it, but I see him at 20 points this week. Tight end Chris Cooley against Indianapolis. Ted's not going to like it, but Chris Cooley's going to find the end zone at least once. Give me 14 points. So he's going to be happy about the fantasy points. Hate that he's against the Colts. I think it's actually, I know I said it's going to be a block. I think it's going to be closer than what everybody expects, because I don't think Gabo's going to have a giant week. I think Gabo puts up 105, and Teddy Ballgame puts up 90. He's going to get 90 out of it. Watch it. It's going to happen. He's going to get 90. Steve Smith's going to be a big part of it. If he doesn't, I'm not going to be surprised, but I definitely feel 90 out of him. He's going to get a good effort in his loss. So Hugo Gabo by 15. Fantasy stud, Antonio Gates again. Fantasy dud, Thomas Jones. Find another running back that's going to get some carries. If you want to, we'll talk about trades later. But I do have a little bit of a stockpile on some good running backs that definitely are better than Ryan Terrain. I don't know. You might have someone. I don't really see anybody, but maybe. Maybe. You can throw me your whole team and I'll give you, like, you know, I don't know, a backup or something. Anyhow, that's my matchup. Sticking to it.